What is happening, YouTube? Cowboy here, and we are back with another Heroes of the Storm strategy showcase. And this time around, we are taking a look at the second head of the Ogre with Gall. So as I mentioned back on the Cho video for Cho'gall, Gall is the ranged assassin component of the two-headed Ogre. And on top of that, he does an extremely well job at playing assassin. The damage potential of Gall is absolutely staggering. And on top of that, he actually can do quite a bit of siege damage as well. So with that being said, the most important thing with playing a successful Gall is really going to come down to the player playing Cho. Because Cho is in charge of all the movement, if he has poor positioning, you're not going to be able to get your damage in. So very important that you have a Cho you know you can rely on, which thankfully I do with raucous. Moving on to our abilities, first up we have Shadow Flame, blast enemies in a narrow line. Relatively straightforward. It's just going to be a small frontal line AoE that hits enemies. It is AoE, so it'll hit everything. And this is going to be your primary damage dealer. In a sense, it's kind of like the needle spine that Abathur hat provides, except with AoE. Moving on from there, we have Dread Orb, an excellent ability where we're going to throw a bomb and it's going to bounce 3 times, dealing damage with each bounce. This is a pretty interesting move in that we can kind of dictate the bounce distance. We can spread the orbs out and hit enemies that are far away, otherwise we can group them up to hit enemies in a nice little straight line. Moving on from there, we have Runic Blast, detonate the bomb that Cho throws on out. Now, this is a very important ability to master because getting the burst from that runic bomb is going to be incredibly powerful. One key tip to remember here is anytime Cho throws the bomb, his character will actually announce it. He'll go bomb or bomb going out. He'll say something. You'll always hear the word bomb in some context, and that's going to be your cue to get ready to pop your runic blast. As for our trait, of course our head's attached to Cho. Wherever he goes, we go, but it's also important to mention that we are immune to stun and silence. So as for our heroics, we have 2 choices here, Shadow Bolt Volley, the damage heroic, and Twisting Nether, the more CC heroic. So in general, I'm a bigger fan of Shadow Bolt Volley. With Twisting Nether, we basically have 1 second, and then it goes up and it creates a large AoE, and any enemies in that AoE are slowed by 40% for up to 5 seconds, and then we can activate it on command to deal damage. With that in mind, I think Shadow Bolt Volley is vastly superior. Shadow Bolt Volley allows us to put out 20 Shadow Bolts over 4 seconds. At level 10, this does 3,000 damage. At level 20, it'll do over 4,500 damage. So needless to say, an insanely powerful ability. Hands down, the most powerful ability in the game when focused on a single target. And on top of that, it only has a 60-second cooldown. So we can use this to blow through towers, forts, keeps, use it to help nuke bosses that you're trying to capture, use it to kill bosses that the enemy team has captured, use it constantly. Now, a very big important thing to mention with Shadow Bolt Volley is it is very important that there's good positioning by your Cho with this. It does turn rather slow, so keep in mind when you use it, you don't want to use it right when Cho's about to charge in because it'll flip around, and by the time you actually turn the volley all the way around to hit your target, the duration has basically ended. So to take a look at our abilities, or our general talent build, first off we're going to go Shadow Flare. Moving from there we go Siphoning Runes, then Edge of Madness, Shadow Bolt Volley, Dread Shield, Giant Scorcher, and then lastly Shadow Fury. So to go more in depth into our picks and what we're taking and why, first up Shadow Flare increases the width. So as you can see with that, we have a nice little width on this. You know, it feels powerful enough to hit stuff with the bomb. Kind of see that. Real fast, just showing you the orbs. As you can see, the closer we are to Cho will dictate the distance. And this is a great move to toss out, even for just vision and checking stuff with a long distance on it. As for the close distance, it's a great ability to get some damage early in against towers. You can see right now, good positioning by Cho, taking advantage of the fact that we can easily get some damage in early until the rest of the team starts showing up. Just kind of doing some work right there. We're going to do a close grouping on it to try and hit all the creeps. You will absolutely decimate creep waves between your Shadow Flame, Dread Orb, and Runic Blast. Makes them very powerful in lane. Ooh, a little late there on detonating my bomb. So to finish what I was going to explain here, Shadow Flare, an obvious upgrade. We're going to be taking a lot of different talents that are going to increase Shadow Flame. And because of that, Shadow Flare is an excellent choice, just giving us that increased width, making it a lot easier to ensure we always connect with our targets. As for the others, Spurned Onward, this will reduce the cooldown of the Hurry Up Oak ability. We have ability right here, which we can basically use to increase the movement speed of Cho by 60%, with a decay over 3 seconds. With that in mind, I don't feel that you really need that to be successful. I feel that in general you were fine with it, you know, being at the 45-second cooldown, and I'd rather have the width for our other ability. So very good job right there by Cho. You can see how he kind of ran out, stopped the wave, made sure they stood in place so that I could get some good damage there. And boom goes a Viking. And it's very important to remember to constantly use your abilities. You know, you don't have a cooldown here, so you want to be using your stuff as much as possible, just making sure you're getting that damage in. You can just see the kill potential on the waves, just decimating these waves right now. So as for our next, we go siphoning runes here. Now, as for the other choices, bombs away, I don't really feel that we need the damage. With that being said, double back, I actually just hate that ability. I don't like it at all. It's going to make it so the third orb ends up bouncing back. And honestly, I'd rather have that third bounce because we can do this very close grouping, and having the third orb bounce back, the only thing that's really going to give us is it's going to ensure that in some very minor cases, it could bounce back and hit a hero, or you could use it for a little bit of clear, but you know, personally, I'm just a bigger fan of the line. So you really got to time my explanations. I keep missing my runic blasts from being busy talking. I guess a bunch of Vikings want to die? Is that what's happening here? What the fuck? What are these Vikings thinking? Give him that little sprint so he can get out of there if he needs to. We're about to take both these towers down already. This one's going to fall right there. You can see just how devastating we are. You know, we're been juggling against a Jaina and at least one Viking at all times, and despite that, we are already through both towers and the gate, and almost the fountain as well. You don't escape. So for our next talent, we go Edge of Madness. Now this is actually kind of a tricky here. On paper, Dark Descent sounds awesome, but more often than not, I find I'm securing kills with Shadow Flame versus Runic Blast. With that being said, as for Double Trouble can be a decent choice, but the way I look at it is this. Consuming Blaze has a 12-second cooldown. Alright, and on top of that, the duration of it only lasts for 4 seconds. So at most, you could get 2 Shadow Flames in for a grand total of 80% bonus damage during the duration of that. With it only being a 3-second cooldown, though, you could do 4 of those. 4. In the time when we consider that cooldown. And the big thing is Edge of Madness is just going to be a 20% static increase as long as we're close to our targets. So all in all, I feel in the, you know, especially considering like towards the end of the game, that it's just going to be much more valuable for us having that constant 20% over relying on the little burst of damage that'll only be apparent when we do have the Consuming Blaze up. So you can see the close bounce on this, all 3 of these being able to hit the keep there. Little late on my bomb, unfortunately. We are just devastating that keep at the moment. We are punishing this Jaina. Give him a sprint. Even though he's running away, obviously still using our abilities, getting as much damage as we can. And you can see the siege potential right here is pretty absurd, just looking at the chart. On top of that, doing pretty damn good on hero damage as well, considering how early we are into the game. And on top of that, we haven't even really seen team fights start up yet, and that's where things begin to get very powerful. So we go for the ulti here, as much damage as we can, and that's a Cho'gall kill. Now, an important thing which I didn't mention in the Cho video is kills on Cho'gall, they actually count as 2, because 1 death, 1 death. So killing a Cho'gall is very, very big. You know, it's 2 kills instantly if you take him down. So do keep that in mind, and especially if you're playing as Cho, you know, keep that in mind as well. It's very important that you're conscientious of that, and you don't dive too deep. You know, potentially risking a very bad situation by doing that. You know, it's just not something we really want to deal with at all. Just punishing this whole team. I kind of feel bad for him. You know, I didn't expect Boss Vikings to do much against Cho'gall, but raucous is tearing things up. Sounds like some kind of weird South Carolina nickname. They call me raucous. Like I said, 60-second cooldown. Use it constantly. If you have an opportunity to use it, toss it up. And I probably could have used it here, but you know, kind of going into their base like that, no guarantee that we'd actually kind of get the kills that we want. Either way, it looks like we still took down Show regardless. $61,000 siege. It's kind of absurd. Should have my ulti up for this fight. I feel bad for them. They have a, you don't really see Vikings that group up like this anymore. Just because it's not smart. Oh no. I'm giving you the shield. No! The Shadow Flare, he got us. Oh man, we got too greedy. Oh, we're still looking good. Really solid so far, 14-4. I think we'll be fine. So as for the 3 talents here, you know, we have Rising Dread, which is going to give us more damage in the 2nd and 3rd bounce. Not really needed in my opinion. There is some obvious synergy there with double back, making sure that you have a really big boost on what would be that 2nd bounce, since the never mind, the 3rd bounce is going to bounce back to the initial position. So, getting confused here. But yeah, just not really needed. You guys are already seeing kind of how much damage we can actually do with this. You don't need more. Speed of Twilight, if you really need to chase, it's decent. 30% movement speed for 2 seconds. It was a bad ability. With that being said, I think Dread Shield overall is just more helpful, making sure that if you hit the hero, you're getting a shield. And that's a pretty sizable shield, you know, 444. It's a little bit under 10% of the total health that we have available under Cho'gall. So it's not a bad talent at all, not a bad pickup, you know. Very good job of keeping Cho in lane, keeping him alive. And this is actually right when you want a Hearth. You know, when you're finally down to like 10% of your health pool, good time to back on out. So at 16, I'm a really big fan of Giant Scorcher here. You know, we already have the increased width, and then on top of that, Edge of Madness. So adding 3% of a hero's maximum health, holy hell, talk about a fucking team wipe down there. 3% of a hero's maximum health just kind of, you know, solidifies things a bit more, just making you that much more brutal. It's going to really allow you to kind of just smash these squishy heroes. Shove, I did play around with. It's interesting, but I can't really see the applications of it aside from, you know, maybe nudging your Cho into a body block, helping him with that, or just giving him that little nudge he needs to escape CC, but you know, it's so situational, I just don't really see the value. As for Twilight Nova, if you're having a lot of trouble landing your Dread Orb, it can help to ensure you're going to get that shield up. But in general, I just don't feel it's going to really be necessary. And I'm going to go and talk about the last talent, so I stop missing my bombs. For our last talent, hands down, Shadow Fury. Giving a pierce mechanic to Shadow Bolt is extremely powerful. I would say this probably ends up getting nerfed. I mean, it's too powerful to not get nerfed, honestly. It's staggering how much damage it can do.
Double kill.
Give him that sprint. Boom! With the bomb. No escape, Jaina. Man, I'm trying to compete with our Butcher and Valor. They're both doing very, very good. I mean, I'm dominating Siege, but I want to get that hero damage. I want the hero damage. We'll really see it too. If they're still alive at 20, we'll see a big increase in our hero damage potential getting up to there. Because at that point, once we have Pierce, it just kind of gets absurd how much damage we can actually do. There's that 3% of the hero's maximum health really showing on off. Oh my god, the Vala. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. The team play is on point. Tossing out an orb before we leave, obviously. Like I said, as much damage as you can. Constantly toss that stuff out. But you can hear Cho constantly. You know, bombs away, bombs out. You know, that's what you're going to be listening for. That's how you know. So looking at stats for us, catching up, almost up on hero damage. Still 104,000 Siege. I'm about to get 20, Shadow Fury, and now we're basically god tier in fights. The damage we can now do with Shadow Fury is insane. He did pick up the Will of Gaul. Very, very good point here. I would suggest activating it along with your sprint. Basically makes it so that just, you know, nobody is going to really be able to stop you. There's no escaping. There's no escaping. There's no escaping. Just popping those together, you know, it's going to give you a 60% movement speed increase, and then on top of that, you're going to have Unstoppable. So it's a great, great way to ensure that your Cho'gall isn't going to die. He can get out of almost any situation with that. Very, very, very powerful talent pick there when used properly by your Gaul. And man, this is just turning into, this is devastation at this point. I almost like feel a little bad for him.
The shrines are gathering power.
Not a smart move there by Sonya. Ooh, thought I had her. Goodbye, Vikings. I don't have to sprint up. Oh, I think they got him. I think Butcher and Valley got him anyway. Oh, he popped that. He's in trouble. Oh my god. Vala, clean it up, Vala. Oh no, she has no mana. So taking a look at the stats, pretty heated combat here for first place on hero damage. I think I'll take it at the end. Siege, obviously, just completely blowing that out of the water. You know, no one's even really close. Vala at 82 is the next closest. Are they gonna actually grab it? I mean, Vikings is kind of strong on this map because of the grab potential. Oh no, they did get it. That's fine. That's fine. I want a challenge. Match isn't over yet, though. You know, it's never. Hero matches aren't over until the very bitter end. Oh, I popped Unstoppable. Just a split second too late, I guess. I think we're gonna kill Sonya since. Oh god, I love using that. Just so much slaughter. And like I said, very big thing there is the positioning of your, oh, I'm gonna try to get the butcher. He wants him so bad. And there he goes. And this is the GG, it looks like. So indeed, I did pull away hero damage. That Shadow Bolt volley right there at the end, being the effective cleaner-upper, if you will. And this core is going down. And that is a GG. Utter slaughter, to be honest. I mean, a big thing, I should stress this with all these videos, especially when these heroes just come out. You know, I'm someone that, I do this as a job. So, I learn these heroes as fast as I possibly can. I go through all their mechanics, I test stuff in try mode, and I figure out the best way to work them. A lot of people don't do that. So, you know, there's obvious mistakes that we saw, like the Vikings and Sonya just kind of chasing me in Shadow Bolt volley. I mean, it was hilarious, don't get me wrong. Watching them get slaughtered was fantastic. But, you know, once he's been out for a while, people are going to learn to avoid that and whatnot. But either way, guys, taking a look at the stats, like I said, absolutely brutal hero. You know, top in siege, top in hero damage. Once again, not sure how we have this XP discrepancy. Just to go through the talent build again. Shadow Flare, Siphoning Runes, Edge of Madness, Shadow Bolt Volley, Dread Shield, Giant Scorcher, and then, of course, Shadow Fury. So either way, guys, I hope you enjoyed the Cho'gall guide. He really is a fun hero to play, especially if you have a buddy who's good with the second half. And I think that I can confidently say that 2 heads is better than 1.